and sustained cuts in carbon emissions across all sectors, including agriculture, transport, and energy, is desperately needed. And environmental protection needs to be elevated to the national agenda, on top of those national agendas around the world. Bangladesh is a very active advocate for climate change globally, both the loss and damage compensation. Numerous experts from Bangladesh on the topic of climate change, and as a country very much at the forefront of climate change, also through the expertise regarding what it would actually take, both in terms of mitigation and adaptation in areas such as, for example, the coastal region of Bangladesh. I also want to note that at the Human Rights Council, the High Commissioner Bachelet pointed out that climate change is the gravest human rights consideration of our time, and take note of the fact that Bangladesh, as the chair of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, has put forward a proposal for a special rapporteur on environment and climate change. So a very good alignment there between the thinking of the centrality of climate for human rights by the High Commissioner herself, and this initiative by the government of Bangladesh for a special rapporteur. Now, in Bangladesh, as you all know, we have the 8th five-year plan, we have the long-term plans, we have the Mujib Climate and Prosperity Plan coming up. So there is a roadmap for the future which takes into account the SDGs. We have as challenges the fact that what the pandemic recovery will look like is not entirely clear today, not for Bangladesh, not for many parts of the world. The concern of the UN is a two-track recovery. Parts of the world where 80% of the population is vaccinated versus parts of the world where 8% is vaccinated. The fact that while some societies are up and running, others are still in lockdown. And this concern of unequal recovery is also something, of course, being discussed at the UN General Assembly this year. The UN system in Bangladesh has recently finalized our Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, which is our response to the priorities outlined in those government plans that I referred to earlier. So this is how we will support smooth graduation from the LDC bracket. This is how we will support green and inclusive recovery. This is how we will support making sure that some of the development achievements of Bangladesh are not lost due to either the climate impact or the pandemic impact. I also want to draw your attention to the fact that, you know, your theme in terms of new world and new hope very much requires countries to take bold action on these commitments. Now, finally, let me close by recognizing the immense contribution of non-resident Bangladeshis in advancing Bangladesh's noteworthy and sustainable economic growth for the past decades. You know, for us who are working with partners here, government, civil society, think tanks, there's a lot of discussions about brand Bangladesh, and there's a lot of discussions about rebranding Bangladesh and updating the image of Bangladesh internationally, getting the country to be known, you know, for the achievements over the past 50 years, for how this watershed moment of climate change and pandemic impact will be managed. And also as a peace-loving, hospitable, fast-growing nation, and of course, what is well known as a strong contributor to UN peacekeeping and a very solid supporter of UN reforms, and a very active member state of the UN. So I'm very much looking forward to your deliberations of this very exciting title of New World, New Hope at this particular pivotal point in time in global history where we face a number of challenges, but where keeping hope alive is probably one of the most important things that we need to do. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to address this August gathering, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mia Sepko, for your nice words. And we always found you were very active and you were around Bangladesh and its community as a whole, all over the world. And Center for NRB is really grateful to you all the times you have given us time and joining our programs so that we can build better Bangladesh, better world for peaceful living and love to each other. Now it's time for inviting one of our best friends in Bangladesh. Center for NRB is really grateful to the Honorable His Excellency the Ambassador, US Ambassador to Bangladesh, Mr. Earl Miller. Mr. Miller, please come forward and give your inaugural speech, please. Thank you. Mr. Earl Miller, the US Ambassador to Bangladesh, please.
Great, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Honorable Foreign Minister Momen, my dear friends, Ambassador Islam and UN Resident Coordinator Mia Seppo, Mr. Chowdhury and Dr. Rahman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. They say New York is a city that never sleeps, but that can also be said about American diplomacy, because although it's evening here in Dhaka, our work with our Bangladeshi friends and colleagues, be it in Dhaka, Washington, or New York, is constant, never slowing, not even slowed by the global pandemic. You know, the contributions of Bangladeshi Americans greatly enrich the United States and add vibrancy to our relationship. Congratulations on your innumerable contributions to both our great nations. And of course, congratulations, as Mia pointed out, to all Bangladeshis everywhere on the 50th anniversary of your independence and the 100th anniversary of the father of the nation. Our two countries have so much in common, starting with our historic struggles for independence and commitment to our founding principles. And the story of every vibrant democracy, of course, is that struggle, ongoing and sometimes imperfect, to live up to our founding ideals and principles, and to make sure we remain committed to democracy, human rights, and social justice for all of our citizens. But beyond our founding beliefs, the people of the United States and Bangladesh have forged many bonds over the past 5 decades, in particular our people-to-people ties. I can't travel anywhere in Bangladesh if I don't meet someone who has either studied in the United States, has a relative in the United States. It's really heartwarming and endearing. It's one of the things that will always bind us together, no matter what happens in our bilateral relationship. You know, and just one example, every year, thousands of Bangladeshi students, of course, study in the United States. In the 2019-2020 academic year, Bangladesh ranked 17th of 20 countries sending international students to study in the US. I know many of you first came to the United States as students, and some of you founded your university and college's first Bangladeshi Students Association. Over the past 5 decades, over 4,000 Bangladeshis have participated in US government-funded exchange programs to study, research, and teach at US higher education institutions. In fact, the father of Bangladesh, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, is an alumnus of our prestigious International Visitors Leadership Program. Of course, our economic partnership grows from strength to strength every year. Two-way trade reached a record $9 billion in 2019. The United States remains the largest export destination for Bangladeshi products and remains the largest source of foreign direct investment. American companies built Bangladesh's first liquefied natural gas import facility, helped dredge the nation's mighty rivers, and shared technology that transformed Bangladesh into a digital nation. The Bangladeshi diaspora in the United States is an important bridge between US business communities and Bangladesh. You know, many Americans are just now waking up to the real potential in your country. And while Bangladeshi Americans have known about it for years and years, and many have returned to Bangladesh to start new businesses and are introducing innovative new products and services, which further facilitate economic growth and demonstrate what is truly possible in this country. And the struggles and successes of these pioneers help pave the way for greater U.S. trade and investment here. And that interest is growing, believe me, I hear it all the time. And once we get to that inevitable happy day when we're out of kind of the darkest times of COVID, you'll see more and more American CEOs, trade delegations, trade missions coming to Bangladesh. And of course, the Honorable Prime Minister opened the U.S.-Bangladesh Business Council not too long ago, and that has really turbocharged that relationship as well. For the past 5 decades, we've been partners in economic development and public health, most notably in fighting tuberculosis and dengue fever, and of course, COVID-19. And over the past 5 decades, the U.S. has provided more than $8 billion in development assistance to Bangladesh. The U.S. is very thankful to Bangladesh. In our hour of need last year, during the darkest days of the COVID-19 pandemic, you helped us with PPE for our frontline healthcare workers. You were so nimble, you actually changed production lines in your RMG facilities to produce PPE that came to the United States of America, and we're very grateful for that. The U.S. in turn was honored to provide over $73 million to support Bangladesh's pandemic response. We've contributed $4 billion to the COVAX initiative to provide equitable access to COVID-19 diagnostics, treatments, and vaccines. And through COVAX and direct assistance, as you heard the Honorable Foreign Minister mention, the United States will donate 12 million vaccines to Bangladesh. This week at the UN General Assembly, the United States will push for global commitments to end the COVID-19 pandemic and finance global health security. We will also stress the need for a renewed global architecture to prevent, detect, and respond to biological threats. Looking forward, the United States, as you've heard, is committed to dealing with some of the globe's most pressing issues, including climate change, an existential threat for all of us. And of course, Bangladesh is unfortunately ground zero for many of the challenges that we'll all face in the future. On September 17th, President Biden hosted the Major Economies Forum on Energy and Climate. The Honorable Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, made a critical contribution in remarks reflecting the perspective of countries highly vulnerable to climate change and the significant impact of failure to act. President Biden hopes this event will spur countries to make necessary commitments to the upcoming UN Climate Change Conference, COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland. And finally, let me recognize the generosity and humanity of Bangladesh in opening your hearts and borders to close to 1 million Rohingya refugees. It is truly an example to the world. The United States is the largest donor of international donor of humanitarian assistance to Bangladeshi host communities and Rohingya refugees. And today, the United States announced nearly $180 million in additional humanitarian assistance. With this new funding, our total assistance for the response is more than $1.5 billion since August 2017. $1.2 billion of American assistance is for programs in Bangladesh that allows our humanitarian partners to provide life-saving support to these Rohingya refugees and more than 472,000 affected members of local host communities in Bangladesh. So in closing, the partnership and friendship between our two great nations grow stronger and deeper every day. As I come to the end of my 3-year assignment in this great country, I mean, there is nowhere I would rather have served as the American ambassador than in Bangladesh at this point in history. It's been a privilege and a joy. And the United States and Bangladesh, 50 years young, move proudly together into a bright, prosperous future, a new world, a new hope. I believe together with optimism and hope and joy, we can change our countries every day for the better. And as the Bard of Bengal, Tagore, wrote in one of my favorite poems, Closed Path, let new melodies break forth from the heart as every hopeful day for the next 50 years and beyond, for all of us, new country is revealed in its wonders. Dhonabad, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Mila, for your nice words. We appreciate that every time you and your authorities always with Bangladesh, with words and deeds. We hope it will continue. Thank you very much, Excellency, and hope to see you Dhaka next time, definitely. Now I like to invite a very veteran economist of Bangladesh, the Honorable Economic Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, Dr. Moshiur Rahman. He is speaking from the Prime Minister's office, Dhaka. Dr. Moshiur Rahman, sir, now your turn, please. Dr. Moshiur Rahman, Honorable Economic Advisor to the Prime Minister, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. I thank the organizers for connecting me and giving me the opportunity to join the distinguished gathering. I have been listening to the very impressive remarks by the former speakers, dwelling on what the UN would do, what the US government is doing, and so on. I will focus on the expatriate workers issue. Expatriate workers are an important source of foreign exchange flows and ease unemployment problem, thereby adding to the economic strength of their respective countries. At the same time, they ease the shortage of workers in the countries of employment and thus contribute to their development. Migration of workers is beneficial for both sets of countries. Service
I think it's a poor connection. Sir, can you hear me? Sir, can you hear me? I think very poor connection in your place. Can we take it later? I think it's okay. We'll take the honorable advisor a little bit later when he will be available on the screen and this connection. Now may I invite Lieutenant Walson of NYPD. Sir, thank you very much. We are very grateful to you to giving this security and facilities to the Center for NRB and Bangladesh for hosting this conference. I'd like to invite you to say a few words, please. This is the, if you can use this platform, please. Oh, his camera is there. Okay, then go ahead.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. It's okay. It's okay. It's solution.
Good morning. My name is Lieutenant Maurice Walston. I'm the Administrative Lieutenant of Community Affairs Bureau, Community Outreach Division. On behalf of Deputy Inspector Kerry, she had hoped she would have been able to attend this event today, but she has a personal situation that she must attend to. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers of this function for putting together this event. If I may, I'd like to call them by name. First, I'd like to thank the president of the organization, Mr. Chaudhary has worked hand in hand with many NYPD officers, but specifically from the Community Affairs Bureau, the Immigrant Outreach Division, and has been a staple within the Bangladeshi community. We thank you for your service, sir. I'd also like to thank 3 amazing officers from the Immigrant Outreach Division. Three amazing officers from the Outreach Division that assisted with planning and coordination of this event. Sergeant Siddiqui, Detective Michelle, and Police Officer Kwar. Unfortunately, Detective Michelle is assigned to the United Nations detail today, so she was unable to make it. I'd like to also thank each and every one of you, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, for attending this event. It is because of you and your hearts we are here. We are extremely thankful and honored. Throughout the years, NYPD has made tremendous strides with bridging the gap between police and immigrant communities, be it partnerships, organizations, and programs. For example, the cadet program. NYPD hires many young adults from all communities across the city. This program enables these young adults to attend and finish college while also preparing them for promotion to a police officer. In addition, throughout recruitment efforts focused in immigrant communities, there are approximately 400 police officers of Bangladeshi descent, and those numbers will continue to climb. In fact, some of you may already know him, Captain Kandikar Abdullah, a good friend of mine, and was also one of my police officers in the 75th Precinct. Now, the commanding officer of the 69th Precinct and the first Bangladeshi officer to command the precinct. The Community Affairs Bureau Immigrant Outreach Division has been extremely dedicated to immigrants of New York City, specifically the Bangladeshi communities. Sergeant Siddiqui, Officer Kwat, Detective Michelle have done a beautiful job with retaining relationships, building relationships, strengthening relationships, and mentoring youth within the Bangladeshi communities. They conduct a soccer and cricket league every summer for 2 months, containing approximately 640 youth who participate. Of those 640 participants, 90% are of Bangladeshi descent. Let's not stop there. Let's continue to work together and further our partnerships. It won't be easy, but sky's the limit. Let's continue to reach with love and humility. Thank you all for attending this event. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Wilson. Just your words. Sky is the limit. Thank you very much. Yes, sky is the limit. Is New World Hope. We have to have this sky to climb up and reach everywhere. Anyway, we are again connected with the Honorable Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Dr. Mashir Rahman. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I am hearing you.
Yes, carry on, sir, please.
Very low voice. Okay, thank you. I thank the organizers for connecting me and giving me the opportunity to join the distinguished gathering. I've been listening to the very impressive remarks, dwelling on the activities and the objectives of UN, the contribution of US government and so on. I will focus on the expected workers issues and be brief as much as possible. Expected workers are an important source of foreign exchange flows and ease unemployment problem, thereby adding to the economic strength of their respective home countries. At the same time, they ease the shortage of workers in the countries of employment and thus contribute to their development. Migration of work is beneficial for both sets of countries. Surveys show that the households which receive remittances have higher income than those which do not. That contributes to poverty reduction. Their income generates demand for ordinary manufactured goods and promote labor-intensive small and medium-scale industries, further ramifying the impact. The pandemic has underweight critical human impact of remittances. Income of households in low-income bracket fell. The remittances to the households were larger than in ordinary times, which protected to some extent the income of remittances receiving households. Remittances supplemented whatever was available by way of social safety net as well as of income insurance. Remittances have an important role for countries which are graduating or have already graduated to middle-income group. They pursue export-led growth strategy with a view to entering larger market, attracting foreign investment and technology, and accelerating structural transformation. Trade gap widens in this phase. Remittances can ease, however limited, the balance of payments pressure during transition. Remittances are no substitute for policies of developed economies, which facilitated access of developing countries, including the graduating ones, to their market. The pandemic has reinforced the case of continuation as well as expansion of existing policies. The countries which send workers and the countries which employ them need to coordinate policies and procedures for protecting workers' rights and freedoms, ease of safety, ease of remitting income and cost. Cooperation can enhance benefit to the workers as well as to the two sets of countries. A forum for charting the course of cooperation can be provided by ILO in consonance with its mandate. Thanks for patient hearing. And thank you all for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much for your nice words, and I hope it will help us to draw good takeaways for the policymakers and the government of Bangladesh, as well as the other countries' authorities who are working with the non-resident Bangladeshis workforce. I hope it will help them to bring a good environment for these working people outside Bangladesh. Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to invite the World Bank Group economist, Dr. Zahid Hussain, to make a presentation, please. Dr. Zahid, you are from Dhaka. Dr. Zahid Hussain. Are you there, sir?
Thank you, Shakil, but you have to allow me to share the screen so that I can show my presentation.
Screen share.
It's disabled.
Is okay, sir?
No. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Can you be a little louder, please?
Please share, allow me to share the screen. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Screen share.
Can you hear me? Screen ta share korte din.
Yes, yes, it is there.
Yes, coming.
Screen share the same.
Can you see me? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see.
Yes, we can see. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, Shakil. Let me get right down back to the business. The pandemic.
Yes, yes, it is there. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Shakil. The first point I would like to make on the state of the new world is that the pandemic-scarred globe is fighting back. We have seen robust scientific response from detection to vaccine development, but the economic consequences have been grave, mitigated partially by unprecedented monetary and fiscal stimulus globally. Global trade has rebounded, capital flows are recovering, and digital information flows have surged. Global trade in the first quarter of 2021 surpassed the pre-pandemic levels. The lockdowns and infection fears across countries increased the use of information systems and networks, with massive changes in usage patterns and usage behavior. Unfortunately, the global average SDG index for 2020 decreased from the previous year, driven by increased poverty, unemployment, inequality, and lower female labor force participation following the outbreak of the pandemic. Technological advancements have so far not changed the path toward destabilizing the planet. The Paris Agreement's preferred climate scenarios are slipping out of reach. Fiscal stimulus packages may have reinforced existing patterns of carbon-intensive development. But there are hopes, glimmers of new possibilities of global collective action. We have seen agreement on a new two-pillar plan to reform international taxation rules. The US is back to the Paris Agreement and the World Health Organization. IMF provided $650 billion in special drawing rights, and the World Bank $160 billion to 100 low-income countries. And there is a unifying framework of 5 core practices created through non-state international initiative to reinforce or enhance existing corporate best practices and regulatory measures to stunt the flow of illicit funds worldwide. There is an opportunity to reform the international investment governance regime, including international investment agreements, to make it more responsive to the Sustainable Development Agenda and coherent with national investment laws. There is an emerging consensus driven not just by the pandemic, that history demands a model allowing peaceful competition between incompatible visions of the world and cooperation on disease, geopolitics, human rights, environment, and climate-related matters. There is no church in either politics or economics. But there are some anxieties. Low-income countries might not see significant vaccination well into 2022. The spread of resistant mutations threatens to reduce the efficacy of current vaccines and undermine the recovery. More than 5.7 billion vaccine doses administered globally, but 73% in just 10 countries, underscoring the world's failure to produce a unified response to the worst public health crisis in 100 years. The jabs and jabs not divide has added to the pre-existing haves and have not divide globally and nationally. There has never been a time in which this new currency called information has been more chaotic. Managing the disruptive information technology is a major economic and political challenge for everyone. My nation first and better thy neighbor policies at the national level continue to elude progress towards the golden deer called a rules-based multilateral system. There is no alternative to reforming the WTO's dispute resolution mechanism. I would like to conclude with 2 points on the United Nations, the need for UN help to Bangladesh. I think there are 2 domains where UN help has immediacy. One is vaccination. Our end goal is to get most Bangladeshis vaccinated for as long as necessary. Massive resources are needed right now to get the vaccines from an airport hangar to trained health workers to deliver the vaccine to the people. Over the medium term, easing patent protections are needed to produce the vaccines locally. This isn't a done deal yet because all 164 members of the WTO have not yet agreed on the decision. The members of Security Council has so far failed to reach any consensus on the political solution to the Rohingya problem. Implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding on the return of refugees is slow. Differences of views on the conditions of return and pathways for Rohingya to enjoy citizenship and equality before the law should not hold back humanitarian assistance. There are 3 other domains where UN engagement must be sustained. The Convention, the Kyoto Protocol, and the Paris Agreement call for financial assistance to less endowed and more vulnerable countries. Bangladesh needs climate finance, more for adaptation than mitigation, such as shoring up land at risk from rising sea level and relocating people whose homes cannot be saved. Over 10 million Bangladeshis earn their living in states where they are not citizens. Bangladesh needs UN help in providing Bangladeshi workers overseas legal protection within the international human rights regime. LDC status has allowed Bangladesh to benefit significantly from the preferential trade terms extended by developed countries. Bangladesh's main exports are likely to face higher tariffs in key export markets based on the current tariff schedule as Bangladesh graduates from the LDC list in 2026. Lifting of international support measures must consider Bangladesh's structural challenges, vulnerabilities, and strengths. The WTO must hold the line against increases in protection in rich countries, even if they are motivated by legitimate concerns of domestic income distribution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zahid Hussain. The sound was not very clear, but your substance we have seen in the screen, which says 5.7 billion vaccine has so far administered, and 73% of that each reached only 10 countries. We appreciate in the globalized world a equal distribution with these developed and underdeveloped or less developed countries, because it's the cause of humanity. So everyone should have right. WTO, WHO, and United Nations should take their role to do the justice to the countries who have not the capacity to produce these vaccines. At least they should procure from the other sources, and all other sources should help them to get in touch. Otherwise, everyone will be burned by this fire. Anyway, thank you very much. Now I like to invite one of the distinguished business leader of Bangladesh. He has traveled all the way from Bangladesh, Canada, and now in New York to join with us, Mr. Farooq Hassan, the President of Bangladesh Garments Manufacturers and Exporters Association. Mr. Farooq Hassan, please. You speak because mic is covering you from me. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shakir. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable guests here, dignitaries, fellow Bangladeshis living here in the USA, and my fellow friends from Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. We are meeting at a very critical time, and I am humbled by your presence this morning. It is an extraordinary moment for all of us, for all the nations around the world, as we have gathered here physically after nearly 2 years. Not only time passed since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, but also it brought the opportunity to rebuild more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable society. Heartiest congratulations to our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for being conferred with SDG Progress Award. The award comes as a recognition of her and her government committed effort to end poverty, ensure equitability, growth, and prosperity to all. An estimated 30 million Bangladeshis are living abroad, both as temporary and permanent migrants in as many as 162 countries. With the number, Bangladesh are the sixth largest group of migrants in the world. They migrated for a varied number of reasons: job, education, improved standard of living. Whatever might be the reason for the departure, they feel connected to their roots, their country of origin, their motherland, Bangladesh. They may be thousands of miles away from Bangladesh, but their homeland occupies a special place in their heart. With this deep attachment and connection comes in the interest and passion for the development of their homeland. NRBs can play a significant role in shaping Bangladesh's financial, social, and economic condition. We need to sincerely and seriously think about the explore avenues to engage them in a well-coordinated and effective way to allow them to contribute to the development and progression of the country. Their accomplishment and success have not only earned them personal reputation, but also brought pride for Bangladesh in their countries of residence as they help place Bangladesh in a global map in a favorable light. Migrant Bangladesh can also be a great help in terms of bilateral transactions since they are well aware of the regulation and policies of that particular country, and the electronic database combined of researcher, entrepreneur, skilled professional, as well as the policymaker, NRBs can be generated for an increased interconnectivity. Millions of Bangladeshis living in a different part of the world also make a huge consumer group who buys ready-made garments and many other products. If they give preference to made in Bangladesh garment while shopping and also present them as a gift to their foreign friends, it will create a considerable impact on our apparel export. It will not only pave the way for Bangladesh to increase its apparel export earnings, but also contribute and promote made in Bangladesh brand among the citizens of the countries where NRB live. If they come across Bangladesh garments and start adding them to their wardrobe, it will further increase the demand for our apparel. We have to increasingly recognize the value that NRB population brings to development efforts, government assistance in terms of harnessing this largely untapped area by creating a healthy environment and a policy mechanism is absolutely crucial so that Bangladesh is living abroad.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farooq Hassan, for your encouraging words, and we hope you will continue your journey towards the wall to promote Bangladesh garments in a better way. Thank you very much, sir. And now, before I invite the president of FBCCI to start speaking, may I invite two very distinguished delegation member is present here. Can I invite both of them in the dais, please? Mr. Naimur Rahman Dujoy, the cricketer and honorable member of the parliament, please, and Mr. Benjir Ahmed. Can you please help us with a chair? Please, Mr. Naimur Rahman Dujoy, and to look speedy, honorable chairman is asking to come forward, please. Benjir Bhai, please. And now I like to invite Mr. Mohammad Joshimuddin, the president of the Federation of Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to speak before the House.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shakil Chaudhary, the leader of the NRB Worldwide Inc., a member of the Greater New York Chamber, member of the NRB Worldwide Inc., distinguished business leaders, delegates from Bangladesh and the USA, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to you all. It is my pleasure and honor to be here at the conference on New World, New Hope, United Nations and Bangladesh in presence of high-profile representative from USA and Bangladesh. I'd like to thank NRB Worldwide Inc. for their initiative to arrange the important conference as a sideline program of 76th UNGA in cooperation with the New York Police Department. Bangladesh has a long history to partnership with the United Nations, having joined the organization in September 1974. Our country has participated gradually in the UN peacekeeping and has made many other significant contributions, including the annual UNGA resolution on a culture of peace and funding members of both of the Peace Building Commission and the Human Rights Council. Bangladesh's contribution to the UN peacekeeping is a story of glory and success. The footprints of Bangladeshi peacekeepers are now even evident in almost all the travel areas in the world. United Nations Development Program began working in Bangladesh in 1973 and has been working since to support national development efforts. The relationship between Bangladesh and the United Nations started during the initial stage of our liberation war 1971. As millions of the people sought refuge in neighboring country in India, the UN extended humanitarian assistance to 10 million Bengali refugees stayed in India and also assisted in the rehabilitation process for return after independence. In our relations with UN has turned into new heights since 25 September 1974. In the 29th session of the UNGA, Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, delivered his historic speech in Bangla. In unshared the fresh ideas, policies to build a brave new world, free of equalities, social justice, and threats in the nuclear war. As the major development partner, UN agencies have been supporting us in various development projects, especially in the fields of sustainable development solutions, poverty alleviation, disaster management, and the police reform, environment, climate change, children and mothers development, youth development, environment of the women, education, industrial development, capacity development, healthcare and research, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, while celebrating its golden jubilee independence in 2021, Bangladesh can take pride in many remarkable achievements in the growth and development. Bangladesh has made remarkable progress in poverty reduction, supported by the sustained economic growth. It has been among the fastest growing economies in the world over the first decade. The ongoing pandemic situation, and despite many limitations under the visionary and dynamic leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Stanley has been mentioned the macroeconomic management of the country. Bangladesh has achieved 5.47 GDP growth in the fiscal year 2021. In addition to protects the reserve has been crossed over 46 billion. The COVID-19 pandemic impacted Bangladesh's economy severely. Our country's economic activities, particularly production, transport, tourism, and other service sectors, have been critically affected by the pandemic. To absorb the COVID shock, our government has a special stimulus package which targeted the support enterprise from SMEs to largest economic sector. With the right policies in the timely interventions, and the government of Bangladesh accelerated its recovery from economic downturn in the continued progress towards further development. Bangladesh has set up into a new journey. It qualified into the developing nation from LDC status. The development comes when Bangladesh is celebrating 50th anniversary of its independence. UN agencies and government of Bangladesh are working closely to achieve the SDG and related target by 2030. Our spirit of UN and Bangladesh partnership. FBCC, as the apex trade organization of the country, has showed cooperation and technical support from UN systems for the capacity building of the private sector to face the challenge and graduation and attain the SDGs. Currently, UN Bangladesh and developing new UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021-25, pursuing the inclusive gender equality focused on human rights-based approach to develop to leave no one behind. The UNSDCF will continue to coordinate with the priorities set the government 8 5-year plan. The UN agencies in Bangladesh are also working to provide the humanitarian assistance of the approximately 1 million Rohingyas refugees and their dignified repatriation. This year, the United Nations marking its 76th years anniversary when the world experiencing unprecedented challenges from the pandemic COVID-19. This difficult time of the pandemic, UN stands beside us, wants to know how to people Bangladesh see the future country in post-COVID era. Congratulate for the launching digital campaign UN 75 to find the way of further engagement of people Bangladesh into supporting the UN their work alongside of the government of Bangladesh. The knowledge we acknowledge the thanks to UN system is working with the people of the government of Bangladesh more sustainable, peaceful, resilient economy, environment, and society.
Right.
The strategic partnership at different levels and establishing report with the people and the government of made United Nations Bangladesh is a trusted and very development partner. Many thanks for patience hearing. Thank you all.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman of the Federation of Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry. You have covered almost everything regarding the United Nations partnership with the business community of Bangladesh and Bangladesh as a whole. Now I'd like to invite the economist, UNDP country economist, Ms. Nazneen Ahmed. Nazneen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Shakil Bhai.
You can give a quick remarks on all these presentations made before you. Ms. Nazneen Ahmed, please. Country economist, UNDP, Bangladesh, from Dhaka.
Thank you very much. Before I say something, may I request those who are not muted, please mute, otherwise my voice will not be heard. I can hear some voice. Please mute yourself, whoever is.
Please request all of you to be silent. Okay, carry on, Nazneen.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm really honored to share my views in this August ceremony, where the title is amazing. Notun Ashai Notun Prithibi Jati Sangho Bangladesh and New World, New Hope. And it's our cooperation with, in a new world. I really congratulate who has actually chosen this title. I will be just very brief, 1 minute. So far, what we have heard from distinguished speakers, that actually says one thing, that we need to work together. We need to work together for climate, for trade cooperation, for cooperation for migrant people, for vaccine equality, and also above all, we have to work so that no one is left behind. If that is our principle, then each of us, every one of us has responsibility. And now that I'm very fortunate that I'm working with UNDP Bangladesh, an UN organization working for people who are, so that they are not left behind. And our recently passed country document for UNDP Bangladesh has given emphasis on COVID recovery, so that our cooperation will concentrate on recovering from COVID, supporting in that line. And also we want to work, we give more emphasis on working so that as Bangladesh is graduating out of LDC, so that we can have a sustainable and prestigious LDC graduation, and so that we can move forward with the aim of becoming a high-income country by 2041. That is our aim for the time being. And it's not only actually when we have our own goals for Bangladesh, but we all know that actually each of us is a global citizen. And that is the motto of today's this seminar, that we have to think like a global citizen. So my act towards the environment, my act towards my people has somehow that has connection with the impact of other people. So we cannot actually live alone. We cannot actually do, even if we have power, money and everything, we cannot do whatever we like. If we don't think of our children, then I mean, who will think of about them? So if we think of a new world, a better world for our children, this is the time that we be responsible wherever we are and wherever we are working. Thank you very much for your for giving me the chance.
Thank you, Dr. Nazneen, for your nice words. I appreciate your cooperation. Always you are very active to support Bangladesh and its common people. Anyway, thank you very much. We have amongst us Brigadier General Fazlul Kader, the chief of the National ID Card Project in Bangladesh. It's a huge task. General Kader, you are following for new world, because you know the identity is very important of this new era of the globalization. How best Bangladesh is coping up with the situation. Can you please speak for 3 minutes, please? Brigadier Kader, please.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected Chairperson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen present here, Assalamu alaikum and very good evening. I am Brigadier General Abul Qasim Fazlul Kader, Project Director, responsible for production and distribution of the ENID for all citizens of Bangladesh. I am really honored and privileged to speak in this 76th UNGA sideline conference on New World, New Hope, Nations and Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, the year of 2007 and 8, an initiative was taken to prepare a voter list with the photograph. The overall cooperation of Bangladesh Armed Forces, this huge task was successfully completed. At the time, the personal information, picture and biometrics of the citizen were taken electronically. The citizen database was prepared on a combination of electronically stored demographic information and biometrics. The national identity card is made as a byproduct of that voter. Initially, citizens were issued with a laminated identity card. Gradually, by this project, modern and more reliable world standard smart ID card are introduced in Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, the smart NID card is made of 100% polycarbonate material, which is multi-layered and durable. It has 25 security features in 3 layers. Personal informations have been printed by laser engraving, which cannot be altered or which cannot be changed. Transparent holograms have been inserted using the electron methods, which is the most advanced technology of the world. It has 20 certification to maintain international standard and comply. Ladies and gentlemen, the national ID card it has the information and which can be by a machine readable instruments, and fingerprint also can be verified online and also offline. Then multiple inclusion of the same person in this process is not possible. It's one of the main strengths of our smart NID. Usage of this smart NID card is number of pieces. In Bangladesh, at present, without the smart NID, one cannot do anything. Uses of smart card are like opening a bank account, purchasing of the SIM card, driving license, insurance, marriage and divorce registration, asset trading, passport, job application, etc. Access to the database is being provided to various government and non-government organizations to provide the right services to the right citizens. So far, total 158 organizations have been given access to our database. The database consists of more than 120 million citizens in an important national resource at this moment. The Election Commission is responsible for its maintenance. Steps also taken to give smart NID to all Bangladeshi citizens. Smart National ID card is the certificate of identity, rights, and acceptance of services. Smart National ID card ensures that the right citizen receives the right services and will serve as the foundation for building a digital Bangladesh. A smart card is the honor, dignity, and pride for our Bangladeshi nationals. In this today's conference on New World, New Hope, I want to inform all non-residents of Bangladesh that very soon our NID team from Bangladesh Election Commission will start visiting gradually one by one countries for the Bangladeshi nationals, those who all have not yet received the national ID. Then this team will go and gradually will register all our Bangladeshi those who all have not yet received. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak in this August UNGA sideline conference on New World, New Hope, United Nations and Bangladesh. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, General Kader, for your nice words, and definitely we are hoping that the American Bangladeshis will get the smart card very soon in New York and other cities, as you have the plan to join here in New York with us next time, so that we can open the distribution of and issuing smart cards here in New York and other places as well. Thank you very much, sir, for your hard work to deliver these things properly. Now I'd like to invite Mr. David Cowper, the program economist of USAID. Are you there, sir? David? David, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. For some reason, my video is not working. I apologize for that.
Minutes, please. David,
okay.
David from Dhaka, you are from 2 minutes, please. David.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting the United States Agency for International Development to speak at this important conference at this pivotal time. As you know, this year is the 50th anniversary of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. A lot has changed in those 50 years. The world is much more integrated. We can see this in how quickly COVID-19 spread throughout the globe. We can see this in the effects of climate change throughout the planet. Floods, not just in Bangladesh, but also in Germany, and New Jersey and New York, wildfires in California, but also in Greece and Australia. There has also been a dramatic increase in trade. In 1971, total exports accounted for less than 17% of world GDP. Today, they account for approximately 30%. What caused this increase in global trade? The Nobel laureate economist Paul Krugman proposes three things. The first is the fall in shipping costs due to the rising use of standardized shipping containers. The second is a fall in the cost of air freight, which has led to increased trade not only in high value items such as pharmaceuticals, but even in clothes, as Bangladesh can attest to. The third reason is the increasing shift by low and middle income countries away from import substitution industrialization towards export-led development. This increase in global trade has also led to global convergence. In 1971, there were two clusters of countries. The rich centered around $14 per person per day, and the poor centered around less than $2 per person per day. Today, there is one larger cluster centered around $7 per person per day. With this convergence, global GDP per capita has approximately doubled from about $5,000 per person in 1971 using 2010 dollars to more than $10,000 per person per day. Per year. More importantly, in my opinion, extreme poverty has fallen to less than 1/4 of the 1971 levels, from more than 43% to less than 10. So how should Bangladesh respond to this new world and new hope? Embrace it. Embrace standardized shipping containers and air freight. Embrace export-led development. Have the courage to shun import substitution industrialization in the sectors where it remains. Remember that import tariffs discourage exports by increasing the relative price of domestic goods. In other words, higher profits in domestic markets come at the opportunity cost of even higher profits in export markets that are never realized. Consequently, Bangladesh should also embrace LDC graduation. Graduation is an important milestone in a country's development. Graduation signifies that a country can compete with the rest of the world on equal terms. I realize that many Bangladeshi are worried about this loss of non-reciprocal tariffs. In my opinion, this loss will prove to be a blessing. It will force Bangladesh to be more export-oriented. And remember, there are far more profits to be made selling to consumers with an average income of $10,565 per year than merely $2,227. And the Bangladeshi are certainly capable of competing. Some of the smartest people I have ever met were Bangladeshi. They were extremely capable entrepreneurs, engineers, designers, doctors, scientists, etc. In my opinion, they are ready to compete with Shanghai, Tokyo, London, Frankfurt, and New York City. My hope is that Bangladesh has the confidence to realize its potential and looks to its future of competing on the global stage on equal terms, not just in 2041, but in 2029 and even today. Dhanabad, thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. David Kaupa, for your words. And as this sound little problem here anyway, from the recording, we'll take these notes for our reports, and definitely it will be sent all the organizations related with these issues. Now I'd like to invite Professor Dr. Ziauddin Ahmed, the Temple University of Philadelphia, who is working very hard to provide vaccines to Bangladesh, and already they have achieved a lot of successes. On behalf of the non-resident Bangladeshis in USA, I'd like to invite Professor Dr. Ziauddin Ahmed, Temple University, Philadelphia. Professor Ahmed, sir?
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to congratulate the Center for Non-Resident Bangladeshi, who's trying to work hard, effort to integrate NRBs and expatriates on the highway of development in Bangladesh. I like to focus on some issue, which is basically the technology transfer. The NRBs of all over the world can do that. Unfortunately, we don't have any good platform yet to contribute. So I think the convention is good, but we have to follow up the result of the convention, and we have to make sure that our young generation who are doing really well in this country and all over the world, and the professionals that I came here almost 40 years ago, our experience will go in vain if we cannot contribute it. So young generation, expatriates, expertise need to be connected on a platform. So for that connection that we have, we don't have enough connection that we could do anything about. We can do a lot of things in environment, health, technology transfer, and many other areas. And I think that this convention and the result of this convention can be actually result in creating such a platform, not only the meeting. So I like to request Shakil Chaudhary and all the other members that after this meeting, please create a body where the NRBs, this is the NRB center. So NRBs can actually be part of what is happening in Bangladesh and contribute. I know many people from different professions want to do something, but we could not get anything headway. We do it by ourselves. We use our own personal connections, but we need a, not necessarily government, a private sector can do that in each and every field. So I don't want you to prolong. I'm enjoying the meeting because it's coming from all over the place. Also the USAIB and other people who are working in Bangladesh, they can include the NRBs for their all the works, if we at least know what are the agenda, what they're doing. So I think if there is some way to inform the NRBs to be part of the development, they'll be very grateful. Thank you very much, Shakil, and everyone else for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Ziauddin, for your continuous support to Bangladeshis and Bangladesh, particularly for the vaccine and procuring vaccine from not only from the US sources, even from and other sources you are trying to provide, and your team members, other team members are there. They are trying to provide the vaccines as much as we need in Bangladesh, and also you are trying to take a chance to produce that in the Bangladesh pharmaceutical industries with this Swedish support. We appreciate your cooperation and support. Hope it will continue. Now I like to invite Ambassador Samina Naz. She is joining from Vietnam. Ambassador Samina Naz, are you there? Ambassador Samina?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, please carry on for 2 minutes, madam.
Thank you very much, respected chairperson for non-resident Center for Non-Resident Bangladeshis. It's very pleasing to see that, while the whole world was under COVID pandemic, we were, not physically being able to meet, but after 75th UNGA go virtual, the 76th UNGA, our Honorable Prime Minister is leading Bangladesh delegation and meeting the UN's leaders, world leaders, and the UN structure. It's really, it's giving us the new hope that your today's the title, respected Mr. Shakil Chaudhary, have so kindly shared, that new hope, Bangladesh and UN. I think in the backdrop of present situation, it gives us really a new hope to further look into the issues at our hand, to see and reflect how we can connect. I would like to really thank you for making this interesting talks. I've been hearing to a lot of other participants. It's a really very refreshing look at where Bangladesh stands now, hearing from the UN Resident Coordinator, US Ambassador, and other distinguished heads of business chambers. It's really, I really don't have to add much from the Bangladesh point of view, but I'd like to just remind that the UN, Bangladesh and UN go hand in hand very closely, and we have a long track record of being leading in many issues. Recently, our Honorable Prime Minister got the SDG award from Professor Sachs, which he mentioned that, Bangladesh is leading, especially for the 2015 to 20 period, to, marking very remarkable achievements for the SDGs track. So and not only that, we all know, even we have but much, contribution, whether it's culture of peace or whether the first ever UN Security Council resolution on women during Bangladesh's presidency during 2020, 2001, Women, Peace and Security. It was our, Bangladesh's resolution that Security Council took for the first time to look at the, women issues, gender equality, and others. So Bangladesh has the role there. It's not to mention, but of course, as the new under the global, the non-traditional challenge that we are facing at present, and the world leaders meeting with renewing their hope. And from Bangladesh side, we are re-emphasizing on vaccine diplomacy, with the climate justice, with the peace and security and all other issues. On this point, I think in the NRBs, they have a very, very important role. Not in every country's development, for especially a country like us, the non-resident, our citizens can really play a greater role, because you have actually the sky is the limit. You don't have any limitations to work where or would you like, because there are experts from around the world, as respected chairperson of NRB mentioned, that 162 countries, we have 14 million of NRBs. It's a huge power for us. It's a huge strength for us. So as my other distinguished speakers have mentioned that, we need to have a direct link of all these distinguished NRBs who are, in different professions. They have their own skill, their experience. They can contribute. Yes.
I think it's enough. We have listened.
Yes, I'm finishing. Thank you very much for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to go to Egypt, the Cairo. The Honorable Ambassador, Mr. Monirul Islam from Cairo. Sir, Monirul Islam, Dr. From Cairo. Do you hear me? Ambassador Monirul Islam from Cairo. Can you unmute yourself, sir? Mr. Monirul Islam? Okay. And maybe he's not listening me. We have amongst us the President of Press Club of India, Mr. Snehashish Sood. Are you there, sir? Mr. Snehashish Sood. Now I like to invite the former Minister, Dr. A. Moin Khan, for 1 minute remarks, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. A quick remarks, please, Dr. Moin Khan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shakil Chaudhry, for very kindly inviting me to this gathering. The title is enlightening: The New World, the New Hope. The point is, has the new world been brought to our attention due to the COVID pandemic? Or we always look forward to a new world, living in this present world? That's the issue. And on new hopes, human beings live on hopes, and we do. In Bangladesh, we look forward to a country which is based on democracy, based on human rights. And this is the important reason why Bangladesh became independent 50 years ago. That is the issue here. We talk of development, yet when we talk about development, we must also talk about the distribution pattern. I think one of the speakers just mentioned at the fag end of his speech, but the point is, in the process of development, if we keep on increasing the difference in the wealth of the rich and the poor at an accelerated rate, that kind of development may not be sustainable. On the other hand, when we talk about economic emancipation, we talk about an equitable distribution pattern. We talk about removal of poverty. We talk about human sustainability and the issue of climate change, which has become extremely important nowadays. We have to realize that all these factors, they affect the poor much more severely compared to the way they affect the rich. So when we talk about new hopes, I believe we must bear all these points in our minds. Thank you very much.
Now I like to listen from Mr. Nur Rahman, 1 minute from Brunei. Brunei, Mr. Nur Rahman, 1 minute from Brunei, please. Just 1 minute, sir.
Yeah, sure. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected moderator, chairman, and I just want to make a quick remark. Congratulations to Honorable Prime Minister and the citizen of Bangladesh on achieving the prestigious SDG award. Bangladesh continues to raise bar in developing the country under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister. Even during this COVID crisis period, Bangladesh has shown resilience and has managed very well under the difficult circumstances and coping with the new world. There will always be opportunities for improvement, and I understand that we need to acknowledge the improvement opportunities. I just wanted to make a couple of points that ease of doing business in Bangladesh, especially for NRBs, still there is room for improvement. And also there will be opportunity to export agricultural products from Bangladesh. Bangladesh, since under the leadership of Prime Minister, Bangladesh has grown and significantly improved in the agricultural sector. And we should now look into how we can export beef, mutton, and other agricultural products from Bangladesh. And I just want to finish by saying that together we create hope and we prosper in new ways in the new world. And let's work together. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak on this auspicious occasion. Thank you very much. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nur Rahman from Brunei. Now I'd like to invite the renowned banker of Bangladesh, Mr. Ishtiaq Ahmed Choudhury, the board member of the Center for NRB from Dhaka. Mr. Ishtiaq Choudhury.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Yes, we are hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Respected distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. I, on behalf of Center for NRB, thank you all for attending this 76th United Nations General Assembly Sideline Conference. Our today's theme is New World, New Hope, UNO and Bangladesh. Is very appropriate and time-worthy at the backdrop of the challenges in this challenging world. Ladies and gentlemen, at the time of COVID-19 pandemic, the world experiences a great shock and have to face new challenges which impacted our lifestyle, our day-to-day business. Bangladesh, our country, is also facing these challenges, and I think United Nations should play a wider and definite role to help the world to overcome the hurdles of climate change, in Rohingya issues of Bangladesh, and the vaccination challenges. Similarly, I wish that world leaders will extend their helping hands to Bangladesh and the developing countries to overcome this crisis. We, the Center for NRB, believes that our today's conference will pinpoint the challenges and able to find out the answers the recommendations, opinions, suggestions from this conference, which will be shared by us to appropriate authority. I once again thank you all for attending in this conference. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, Mr. Ishtiaq Chaudhary. I like to mention a couple of important dignitaries present here in the House in New York. Mr. Aminul Haq Shamil, Vice President FBCCI, Mr. Salahuddin Alamgir, Vice President FBCCI, Mr. M.A. Rajak Khan, Vice President FBCCI, Mr. Muhammad Ali Khokon, President BTMA, Ms. Shomi Kaisar, President E-Commerce Association of Bangladesh, appreciate Shomi, Syed Alamgir Kobir, President Basis, Syed Almas Kobir, President Basis, Ms. Naz Farhana Ahmed, President Dhaka Women Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Muhammad Anwar Sadat Sarkar, Director FBCCI, Muhammad Rezaul Karim Rejnu, Director FBCCI, Muhammad Bozlur Rahman, Director FBCCI, Mr. Tabarakul Hussein Khan, Director FBCCI, Muhammad Biad Ali, Director FBCCI, Muhammad Nasir, Muhammad Abu Nasir, old is gold, Director FBCCI, Mr. A.S.M. Mohiuddin, Deputy Managing Director, Abdul Monem Limited, and Director former Director, Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Alamgir Shamsul Alamin, President Rehab. And we have couple of names in the screen. I like to mention Mr. Mazhar from Dubai, Mr. Abdul Razak from London, UK, Mr. Mahbub Alam Shah, Director of Bangladesh Malaysia Chamber of Commerce and Industry from Malaysia, Brigadier General Retired Ezaz from Dhaka, Mr. Mahabub Anam, Board Member, Center for NRB, Mr. Muhammad Advocate Joshimuddin Ahmed, the Secretary General of Jalalabad Association, Dhaka, Ms. Brishti Khatun Sabah from Malaysia, Mr. Muhammad Muniruz Zaman, and Climate Specialist from New York, Ms. Ina Islam, Mr. Muhitur Rahman Banker from Sylhet, Mr. Moniur Rahman from ATN Bangla Dhaka, and our research team member Ms. Mushreka Afroz Khan Orin from Dhaka, Mr. Amin Rasul from Qatar, Mr. Rahid Izaz from Dhaka, Mr. ABM Ahmed, and former President of Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry and past Lions Governor, Mr. Benazir Ahmed, Mahbub Anam, I said, mentioned already, Amirul Islam, Muhammad Tawfiqi Ilahi Chaudhary, banker from Dhaka, Mr. Mohit U. Chaudhary from United Kingdom, Barrister Nazir Ahmed from United Kingdom,
Preeti Chakraborty is there.
Ms. Preeti Chakraborty, how are you, brother? From Dhaka, is the chairman for an old home in Sri Mongol. She is trying to establish a very effective organization there. Mr. Rezaul Kabir, former secretary, Mr. A. Gofur, former executive from MCHM Dhaka, Mr. A.K. Iftekhar Ahmed of insurance expert of Green Delta Insurance, Mr. Mukhtar Chaudhary, former director of Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Mahbubur Rahman Chaudhary Babu from Qatar, Monir Zaman from BBC News Malaysia, Mr. Rafiqul Bari Mukta, a veteran lion and also a businessman in Dhaka. So far, Khondokar Fahmida Wadud and Mr. Muhammad Uddin from Dhaka. All the party, we are grateful. Mr. Alim from NRB BA Qatar, Mr. Abu Tahir, Mr. Liakot Ali Bhuiya, former Vice President of Rehab from Dhaka,
Muhammad Ghulam Mustafa,
former Vice President, Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, We are grateful to you, sir, for joining us this event, and definitely speaking session of this conference will be held on 26th morning in New York. I hope some other people will get the chance to speak there, and we will be able to bring some of more important people for speaking on 26th morning. I like to mention a couple of names here who has extended tremendous service. Sheikh Farhad, he's supposed to coordinate this whole program, but unfortunately the network system and sound system is not that very active. That's why we are unable to have his service here. Anyway, he has provided us a very delicious and very healthy American brunch for all of you. Thank you, Sheikh, and thank you for organizing all this. And Sergeant Irshad from NYPD, and Officer Kwak, NYPD for last 3 days he is working with us, and Captain Said Suman, thank you very much from NYPD, and definitely we are thankful to the NYPD officials for helping us. We have a couple of New Yorkers here. Mr. Kalam, a businessman in Bangladesh and living in New York. Syed Atikur Rahman, Mr. Rimon Islam, press from New York. I meant Syed Kabir from ETV, Mr. Nurul Haq as a professional photographer here. I'm really sorry. A lot of people, unfortunately, I cannot mention their name because they are not properly registered their name. Mrs. Kalam also there. Thank you very much for joining us. And Mrs. Tohura Chaudhary is one of the organizations who has sponsored this whole event of TCBL group. She is the vice chairman of that one. Tohura Chaudhary, thank you very much for your organization for supporting. Sheikh Farhad, thank you very much for supporting us. And one American business guy, he is promoting Bangladeshi youth here, Mr. William Lyon. I think he left already. Mr. William Lyon, and particularly the delegates from Bangladesh. We are really thankful to you that you have came all the way. And United Nations office in Dhaka, UNDP office in Dhaka, USAID Dhaka, US Embassy Dhaka, all the organizations have very good working partnership with them. Thank you, Ambassador Mila, for your good words, and stay until finishing of this program, and hope to see you in next initiative where you will help Bangladesh Health Center for NRB for promoting the noble cause, and we are promoting lawful living, lawful business, which the US government very actively working on this. And I definitely say very big thank you to Ms. Mia Seppo. She was very active and very helpful to the Center for NRB for particular this cause. I appreciate Ms. Mia Seppo. I believe during your tenure, Bangladesh and its people will be very actively joined with the United Nations organizations. I already praised the UN organizations working in Bangladesh very seriously, and I hope that will be replicated around the countries where, like Mia Seppo's people will work, and United Nations will come forward with its own identity and dignity and supporting this new world, because we need to roll out the vaccines all over the world with the support of United Nations, WHO, and particularly the US government. The President Biden government's already supporting a lot of countries, and they supported Bangladesh. We appreciate Biden's administration, and particularly the US Embassy and Ambassador himself in Dhaka for supporting Bangladesh. Everybody supporting us seriously. We appreciate. We are a peace-loving nation. We hope this initiative is not an initiative of country as a whole. It's a global initiative. We are trying to promote everybody, and we are taking everybody together, because this pandemic situation, everyone should fight together. Otherwise, it's not possible. Is the pandemic breakout in Bangladesh? It will suffer in New York. If it is breakout in New York, it will suffer Australian people. So everybody should be together and work together as a global village. With these words, I thank you, all of you. The President of BCCI, the Honorable MP, Mr. Naimur Rahman, who is a very lovable person to me, and Benjir Bhai, the Baira leader also, Mr. Mustafa Babu Bhai, the Senior Vice President, and official Siddiq of the BCCI, NRB Center's officials, all, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much. Hope to see you 26th morning on discussion session. This is inaugural session is over there. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all. Thank you, dear President. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Meaningful, very worthy deliberation of all the speakers. Thank you so much, organizers.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Sohel.
Thank you, Sekil Bhai. Sekil Bhai, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sohel.